Excuse me. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to start with something new I've never done before, and I'm going to tell you my real name. So I'm not really like trying to hide behind like a, you know what I mean, the Ant-Man channel title, but anyways, I'll get to that. It is Sunday the 26th of January 2014, and you know me. Well, you don't, but you're about to. My name is Matt Larian, and I have an opinion. I know that nobody cares, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. I have an article here in front of me that I would like to read because it's really interesting, and I believe in this kind of stuff because I'm one of those crazy, hardcore, like, believers in God that has a lot of faith. Well, I shouldn't give myself that much credit. I should give Jesus all the credit because he always believes. I tend to fall short daily. British Museum prototype for Noah's Ark was round. Curator Irving Finkel calls 4,000-year-old Mesopotamian tablet telling flood story one of the most important human documents ever discovered. This is by Jill Lawless. That'd be a cool name to have, Lawless. Anyways, it has a picture of him here holding it, if you'd like to see it. You know what's crazy, atheists, is that you never find anything like this that's over, what do you say here? 4,000 years old? I think you don't ever find anything that's over like 4,000 years old, and supposedly this, things have gone on the way that they have since our forefathers have been here, is what the heathen says, and that's how it's always going to be, and that there's no judgment, there was no flood, there was no creation. I beg to differ. Based on scientific study, Irving Finkel, curator in charge of cuneiform clay tablets at the British Museum, poses with the 4,000-year-old clay tablet containing the story of the Ark and the flood during the launch of his book, The Ark Before Noah, at the British Museum in London, Friday, January 24, 2014. The book tells how he decoded the story of the flood and offers a new understanding of the Old Testament central narratives and how the flood story entered into it. Photo credit AP, saying 10. London, AP. It was a vast boat that saved 2 of each animal and a handful of humans from a catastrophic flood. But forget all those images of a long vessel with a pointy bow. The original Noah's Ark, new research suggests, was round. A recently deciphered 4,000-year-old clay tablet from ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, reveals striking new details about the roots of the Old Testament tale of Noah. It tells a similar story, complete with detailed instructions for building a giant round vessel as a coracle, as well as the key instruction that animals should enter 2 by 2. If you've ever heard the Noah's Ark, any theories on how they built Noah's Ark, I have. I've seen a lot of them, and they have what is called a moon pool underneath the boat, so that it doesn't just capsize on itself when the floods raise it up super high, because it would break. All these things are they're described like in the Bible. God tells him how to build it, and he builds it, and it's pretty amazing. The tablet went on display at the British Museum on Friday, and soon engineers will follow the ancient instructions to see whether the vessel could actually have sailed. It's also the subject of a new book, The Ark Before Noah, by Irving Finkel, the museum's assistant keeper of the Middle East and the man who translated the tablet. Finkel got hold of it a few years ago when a man brought it in a damaged tablet his father had acquired in the Middle East after World War II. It was light brown, about the size of a mobile phone, and covered in the jagged cuneiform script of the ancient Mesopotamians. It turned out, Finkel said Friday, to be one of the most important human documents ever discovered. It was really a heart-stopping moment, the discovery that the boat was to be a round boat, said Finkel, who sports a long gray beard, a ponytail, and boundless enthusiasm for his subject. That was a real surprise. I'm going to always... Well, I don't care what anybody says. I'm always just going to go to the Bible as my primary source of information, because we can change stuff, but even if, because if you've ever heard of the story of Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, a lot of the atheists try to give credit to that being the reason why people wrote the flood in the Bible, but that's irrelevant, because it wasn't like they wrote the Bible and then everything happened. they wrote it while things were going on. And as a matter of fact, they didn't really write it until they were in Babylon, I think, because they were in captivity. They were they were taken from their country. They didn't have anything else better to do, and they thought it was a good way to always remember the God who made them a nation, and that was their way of repenting, and you know what I mean, because they knew that the reason they were in Babylon was because God punished them, and and when it comes to people coming out with stuff like this, it's interesting to look at, yeah, because this is an old clay tablet and whatnot, but I think that we're pretty much good. You know what I mean? The Bible tells you everything that's going to happen, and you don't need anything else to let you know that. And it's not a book that evolves. It's a book that has the truth in it, and the truth never changes. So anyway, yet Finkel said a round boat makes sense. Coracles were widely used as river taxis in ancient Iraq and are perfectly designed to bob along on raging floodwaters. It's a perfect thing, Finkel said. It never sinks. It's light to carry. Other experts said Finkel wasn't simply indulging in book promotion hype. David Owen, professor of ancient Near Eastern studies at Cornell University, said the British Museum curator had made an extraordinary discovery. Elizabeth Stone, an expert on the antiquities of ancient Mesopotamia at New York's Stony Brook University, said it made sense that ancient Mesopotamians would depict their mythological ark as round. People are going to envision the boat, however people envision boats where they are, she said. Coracles are not usual things to have had in Mesopotamia. The tablet records, or it records, a Mesopotamian god's instructions for building a giant vessel 2/3 the size of a soccer field in area, made of rope, reinforced with wooden ribs and coated in bitumen. I think it's in Turkey. This is the thing that people who don't really study the Bible seriously always overlook, and the Bible does not say that the boat rested on Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat's a real place, but the boat, it didn't say went on that mountain. It said it went around the area of that. It's like in that area, and where they supposedly think it is in Turkey. It's like, I forgot the actual spot what the name is and stuff. But what's really interesting about this story, give you whether you believe it or not, I sure do, and I think it's cool that you see evidence for it in places like Turkey, because there are gigantic megalithic gigantic stones with and with the crazy thing about this too, you guys, is that there's like crosses like carved into those anchors, because that's what they are. They're anchors. They have little holes in them for rope. They're gigantic stones, and there's about a lot of them, and they're just all in this one area, and they pretty much just have it there for like a memorial, I guess. So a lot of people believe that's what it is. They're anchors from Noah's flood. Finkel said that on paper or stone that the boat building orders appear sound, but he doesn't yet know whether it would have floated. A television documentary due to be broadcast later this year will follow attempts to build the ark according to the ancient manual. That's fun. I want to see that. Yeah, according to the ancient manual. Let's see. The flood story recurs in later Mesopotamian writings, including the Epic of Gilgamesh. These versions lack the technical instructions cut out, Finkel believes, because they got in the way of the storytelling. What I think happens is, when you tell a story to someone, it progresses. Like, people will add to it. People will make it their own. People will do this. People will do that, because it's a story. And people tend to exaggerate sometimes, or people tend to just change it altogether. I don't know why. Maybe they're because they want to lie, or because they're just overexcited about it, or they don't remember it right. But I think that's where you get people, like these epics of Gilgamesh and all the other flood stories around the world. Did you know every single nation has a flood story? They do. They all do. And they're all different. Why? Because they made it to their own liking. It's funny that people say that I have an imaginary friend called Jesus Christ, because I could never imagine him on my own, because I would make him in my own liking. If I made a God in my own liking, he wouldn't let me, he wouldn't be like that. He would be totally like, yes, Matt, your job is to get revenge and shed blood and this and that, because that's what humans do. We just all like to fight and just be mean to each other. Even the Christians nowadays, you Christians are all too critical on each other, too judgmental. I think we should work together more and not just hit each other over the head with the rod, but actually be open to discuss things. If you're a spiritual person, you have no problem talking about things like this. So why would you call yourself spiritual? Anyway, it would be like a Bond movie where instead of having this great sexy red car that comes out, somebody starts to tell you about how many horsepower it's got and the pressure of the tires and the capacity of the boot trunk. He said, no one cares about that. They want the car chase. Finkel is aware that his discovery may cause consternation among believers in the biblical story. When 19th century British Museum scholars first learned from cuneiform tablets that the Babylonians had a flood myth, they were disturbed by its striking similarities to the story of Noah. That's just a problem with the way you think, because it doesn't make anything irrelevant. It doesn't make the Bible, it doesn't contradict the Bible. It just gives it more evidence. And if you know human nature, that just gives you more evidence too, because you know that we tend to lie, and a lot of tribes around the world too probably didn't tell the story right, obviously, but they all have similarities. A deity made the world flood. He only saved one family, and that's basically all of them have that similarity. Already in 1872, people were writing about it in a worried way. What does it mean that Holy Writ appears on this piece of Weetabix? He joked, referring to a cereal similar in shape to the tablet. Finkel has no doubts. I'm sure the story of the flood in a boat to rescue life is a Babylonian invention, he said. He believes the tale was likely passed on to the Jews during their exile in Babylon in the 6th century BC, and he doesn't think the tablet provides evidence that the ark described in the Bible existed. He said it's more likely that a devastating real flood made its way into folk memory and has remained there ever since. I don't compromise my beliefs. And that doesn't hold any water to me, that makes the Bible irrelevant. They were the only family who survived. They created everybody on this earth now. So, pretty much, and that goes into great detail. We could go into whose sons of Noah became what tribes and what nations and all that. We can go into that, and that's lengthy. But, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make anything irrelevant. The Bible wasn't written like in the beginning of the time, at the beginning of the first day of creation, and then it just like, oh yeah, you know everything here, so before it ever even happened. But all the things that are supposed to happen in the future written in the Bible, they give it to you in a code. You have to like kind of learn the code. They give you symbols, and you're like, oh, and if you know it, then you know that Daniel's vision and the Revelation written the book of Revelation is it's supposed to be, it's the same thing. They're talking about it and they're describing it in different ways. Daniel described it in metals because that was King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and then the Revelation was like, it was like talking about beasts that look weird. I don't think the ark existed, but a lot of people do. He said it doesn't really matter. The biblical version is a thing of itself, and it has a vitality forever. The idea that floods are caused by sin and is happily still alive among us. He added, pointing out a local councillor in England who made headlines recently for saying Britain's recent storms were caused by the legalization of gay marriage. Had I known it, it would have gone into the preface of the book, Finkel said. So that's the end of the article. Does God have a providential will? Does he let bad things happen to good people or people who are not expecting things? Yeah. We're all mortal men. You don't know when your time is. That's the point of the gospel. You know what I mean? Like, let's not water it down, and let's not compromise our beliefs. If you can't believe in a flood, that says a lot about what you're willing to compromise, for your faith. You're supposed to have childlike faith. What does a child do when you read them a story when they're going to sleep at night? They listen. When you're old, you tend to have a lot of things going on with you. Like some people are argumentative. Some people don't even look for truth. They just want to have something to argue. We look to the things that are not seen, not to the things that are seen. Everything you see is going to perish. So we look to the things of the unseen, the supernatural. God's invisible. You can't see him, but he's everywhere, and he's here right now. And that's what's really crazy, because if you're aware of that, then it's a great blessing. And it gives me a lot of peace and joy in my salvation, and not in the things that I'm willing to compromise to have a little bit of fun here on earth. It's not worth it to me, because I like having that connection with God where I feel like I'm, I feel like everything's going right, I'm in his will and stuff, but never let, that the enemy tell you to compromise for your beliefs and stuff, because then you'll have, that's the kind of stuff that brings like guilt, shame, and condemnation, and makes you feel unsure about your faith. But anyways, hope you guys were blessed. Have a good day. God bless.